So I read the arc of She Who Becomes the Sun by Shelley Parker-Chan. It's a reimagining of the founding of the Ming Dynasty in China with a little bit of magical realism. It is very good, but I also feel like if you know a lot about Chinese history, then you might not get that much out of it, because in terms of the plot, it goes very much exactly how it actually happened in real life. So, like, even though the book is plot-driven, what you get out of the book is the characters. I'm also a little confused because I've seen a lot of people say it's a trans book, but I've not found any trans characters. Like, I've even seen the author themselves say it's an LGBT book, which it is, because there's a female-female relationship and a male-male relationship, but they've also said it fits under trans rep. And I'm confused by that, because our main character is a woman who pretends to be a man in order to survive, but she still very much identifies as a woman, and it's called She Who Becomes the Sun. The author in interviews has referred to this character as she. In other characters in the books who know the truth about them also refer to them as she. So that's not trans being dressing in a different gendered way or pretending it isn't trans if you're doing it just to survive because of sexism, not because of gender dysphoria. And the other character is a eunuch, but again, he very much again still identifies with his birth sex, to the point where he gets very angry if people suggest he's more feminine or womanly simply because he's a eunuch. So, like, we've got two characters who don't fit the stereotypical gender expression, but neither of them identify differently to their birth sex. So it's a little confusing as to how you could justify that as trans when neither of them are. I'm trying to go through my room to find the, like, Harry Potter stuff that I don't want to keep anymore. Because originally when J.K. Rowling came up with all that bullshit, I was like, well, I already own all this stuff, so there's not really any point in throwing it away. But now, one, she's got a lot worse, but also I'm like, there's a lot more art prints and whatnot that I want to put up. I don't have room for because there's Harry Potter stuff in the way. So like, I'm going to get rid of some of it. Some of it I do want to keep, so I'm just trying to figure out which stuff. I'm like, yeah, I definitely don't want that. I want stuff I'm okay with keeping. So, like, for instance, I want to get rid of this art print that's from Nerdy Post. I'm also probably going to get rid of this art print. And then this coaster of Bellatrix. This little Trelawney. This mug of when they were in the Forest of Dean. Also has a little Hedwig. And this Hogwarts planner that I've never used. I also think I've got quite a few bookmarks in Harry Potter, so I think I should probably get rid of some of them. These are because I was recently in hospital having surgery. So, like, for instance, this one of Burrow. It has "Not my daughter, you bitch," but they purposely designed this, purposely cut it off at the bottom so as not to offend people. We also have, like, Harry Potter ones of, like, that came in Lovejoy. It's like this Harry Potter one of Nagini. That doesn't particularly look Harry Potter-y. It just looks like a medieval snake. And there's this Bellatrix one. Like this one, for instance. This came in the bookie box. This one, well, that's about that teaspoon range. I'm not sure if this is a quote from Harry Potter, but this side is Harry Potter. I do have some Harry Potter pens that I want to get rid of, but I'm not sure I'm not sure if I want to get rid of them. Like this Snitch one that opens up and it's got the Resurrection Stone in the middle. There's other ones I got like this one, but that's like, it wasn't sold at Harry Potter merch, just as Mandrake, so I'm like, J.K. Rowling didn't invent Mandrake, so I'm okay with this one. This one, not so much. I was thinking of maybe getting rid of this mug. This is actually one of the mugs that's causing all of the drama with Algrate. I do have another one that's in a similar design, but it's not actually by the same artist. And it doesn't actually particularly look that Harry Potter-y, other than the fact that it says Gringotts. Yeah. Another book I have been reading lately is Foxhunt by Rem Wigmore. I received it for an ARC, even though it was published yesterday. so I didn't finish it in time. I'm about halfway through, and it's a solar punk climate fiction sci-fi. So we have our main character who's a trans woman who's a singer, and then she gets chased after by these bounty hunters who normally go after people who've committed like crimes against the climate and stuff like that. But she hasn't done this, so she's like confused as to who has put a bounty on her and accused her of something like this. But she can't really find answers, so she ends up infiltrating the bounty hunters, trying to get answers. The writing style is quite weird. It's, well, like, more so the way the main character, Orpheus, talks is bizarre. She talks kind of like, I was trying to figure out which era it is, but it's like Arthurian English, which it does end up talking about how she's pretty much obsessed with old folktales from Western Europe and whatnot, including especially King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. So like maybe that's why she talks like that, considering no other character does talk like that. It's just a tad bizarre. I'm pretty sure the author is non-binary, and every character in this book, they introduce themselves with their name and then their pronouns. So there is a few characters in here who use neo-pronouns, and then a couple, I think 2 characters who use multiple different pronouns, like he and she. It is good, and I'm interested in like finding out who's like where the story's going. Like pretty much the only thing that's irking me is the strange way Orpheus talks. She is very combative and purposely tries to piss people off, which after like a few hundred pages of reading hell like that starts to piss you off. I'm also very up behind on my TBR still. So like the TBR that I put out like 2 months ago, even though I'm on track for my reading goal, I'm still like 5 books left of that to read.
So these are all the books I still got to read for TBR. Hopefully I can get through them pretty quickly because they are all YAs.
Playlist that you can also access if you want to find your booktubers or you want to watch any videos that I'm referencing. I'm not going to show you reactions to all of the videos, obviously, but when one pops up throughout the weekend, I literally have like 20 hours of YouTube to watch here.
I have finally finished Havenfall by Sara, Holland. I talked about this in my previous reading vlogs, and it is not good. A lot of people complain about YA having protagonists that are really stupid. This protagonist, Maddie, is insanely stupid. Like, she is the stupidest character I've ever fucking read. Like, if she had even an ounce of intelligence, the book would have been, like, only, 200 pages shorter. It's ridiculous how unbelievably dumb she is. Also seem like the world building is also shit. Like, there's 3 different worlds. One we've barely talked about at all because it's blocked off and we can't access it. And the other 2 is one's an ice world, one's a fire world. That's it. There's no exploration of what their cultures are like or anything like that. Nothing. It's like she didn't even try to do world building. Also, the book's quite illogical. It doesn't make any sense. Like, in terms of spoilers, towards the end we find out that there's a much more plot going on, in that there's a guy who's from one of these other worlds living in the town and keeping a girl locked up in the basement and using her to make magical items, which, one, doesn't make sense because we're told that people from these other realms can't leave the inn and survive outside on Earth. So how would he set up an entire business outside in the town? That doesn't make sense. But then also, that storyline is never explored at all. Like, the character escapes and then at the end of the epilogue they're like, oh, we saved the little girl. How? No idea. Doesn't talk about it at all. Doesn't explain how there was a guy from another realm living undetected in this other town, with no one realising this guy who owns the bookstore has scales. No explanation of how the hell he was surviving. There's also the point about how her mother confessed to murdering her brother. It's like, that was the dumbest fucking thing she could have done. Because we clearly find out that the brother wasn't murdered, he was kidnapped. And we're told at the beginning that there was blood all over the walls and whatnot, but we're also told based a bit of the brother's history, and it so clearly cannot be the brother's blood. So it must have been the mother's blood. So how did the police look at this room that's been ransacked and be like, there's blood all over the walls, and it matches the mother, and only the mother, so clearly the mother killed the son, even though there's no evidence that the son's been injured at all. But there's plenty of evidence to show the mother's been injured. And also, it says that the police got there very quickly because neighbours called them. And like, how did the neighbours not talk to them about the fact that they saw people breaking into the house? And also, like, she confesses to murder so as people won't find out about Havenfall. But like, you could have just said he was kidnapped, and then even if you didn't want to police to put much effort into actually finding him because you're worried if they find him they'll find out the truth, you could have just given them a false description of what the kidnappers looked like. And also, it's blatantly clear that other people in the world do know about Havenfall, but either, for some reason, either the governments don't care, probably because it's boring fucking worlds, or because politics is stupid that even if she did give a accurate description, they wouldn't be able to find him anyway. So she just put herself on death row for no fucking reason.
Then paused to lick the paw. It's like a ear. Take a look at the day. At night we could hear him running, feel him cross our feet as we lay in bed, running up a storm. All the omens spoke of change. I woke up on Saturday morning and thought I heard them calling me. They want me to get up, I thought, before I came fully awake and remembered that they were dead. Constance never called me to wake up. When I dressed and came downstairs that morning, she was waiting to make my breakfast, and I told her, I thought I heard them calling me this morning. Hurry with your breakfast, she said. It's another lovely day. After breakfast on the good mornings, when I did not have to go into the village, I had my work to do. Always on Wednesday mornings, I went around the fence. It was necessary for me to check constantly to be sure that the wires were not broken, and the gates were securely locked. I could make the repairs myself, winding the wire back together where it had torn, tightening loose strands, and it was a pleasure to know every Wednesday morning